Most people will work 40 years and retire with almost nothing, not because they are lazy, not because they were unlucky, but because they spent 4 decades thinking like employees, even while desperately wishing to live like owners. Let me tell you something that sounds harsh, but could save you decades of financial mediocrity. The psychological trap. Employee mindset is a psychological trap disguised as security. And if you don't learn to think differently, you'll find at 65, job security and financial security are completely different things. Here's what I mean by thinking like an employee. You trade time for money, wait for permission to act, let someone else define your worth. You optimize for safety, not understanding. You celebrate your paycheck, but never question the system. Brutal truth. Job is a great source of income, but a terrible wealth-building strategy. Jobs are designed to pay you fairly for your time, not to make you rich. The incentives are clear once you see them. Your employer pays you enough to keep you from leaving, but not enough to make you financially independent. This isn't cruelty, it's math. If they paid you everything you truly generate for the company, they wouldn't make a profit. Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome. You can have a job and still think like an owner. You can earn a salary and build wealth at the same time, but you cannot do this thinking like an employee. The shift isn't quitting your job tomorrow, it's understanding the difference between renting your time and owning something that multiplies. 3 biases that trap the employee mindset. Incentives bias. When you're paid by the hour or salary, you unconsciously optimize for time, not for value created. You start measuring your worth in hours, not results. Authority bias. You submit to your boss, company policies, hierarchy. You stop thinking independently because someone is paid to think for you. But here's the problem. Your boss isn't thinking about making you rich. They're thinking about extracting value from your time. Social proof bias. Everyone around you climbs the corporate ladder, so you follow. Everyone celebrates the annual raise, so you do too. But the herd isn't moving toward financial independence. They're moving toward comfortable dependence. Inversion. What guarantees eternal poverty? Instead of asking, how do I get a promotion, ask, what guarantees I stay poor forever? The answer is simple. Trade time for money with no ownership, no equity, no asset benefiting from compound interest. Avoid this stupidity. Warren Buffett, thinking like an owner at Graham-Newman. Buffett worked for Benjamin Graham at Graham-Newman. He received a salary, but here's what made him different. He thought like an owner while employed. He studied businesses obsessively, saved aggressively, allocated each dollar as if it mattered because he understood compound interest. Charlie Munger, lawyer with a capitalist mindset. I practiced law for years, charging clients by the hour, but I never thought like a lawyer building a successful firm. I thought like a capitalist allocating resources. I reserved 20% of my mental energy to study businesses, understand economics, and make investment decisions. Those 20% made me wealthy. The other 80% paid my bills. Circle of competence versus job title. Your job title doesn't define your competence, your deep understanding does. You can be hired as an accountant and be competent in real estate economics. You can work in marketing and deeply understand software business models. Competence is what you know well enough to judge accurately. Mental model. Separate income from wealth strategy. Separate your income source from your wealth strategy. Your job provides cash flow, valuable, yes, but wealth comes from owning assets that multiply, businesses, real estate, intellectual property, skills that generate business value. Do not confuse the two. Andrew Carnegie, telegraph operator to steel magnate. Carnegie started as a telegraph operator, earning $2.50 a week. He could have thought like an employee forever.
Instead, he studied business, learned about railroads, steel, capital allocation, saved money, bought small stakes. He thought like an owner while working for others. Benjamin Franklin, owner of the system, not just worker. Franklin wasn't just a printer, he owned printing presses. He didn't just write, he owned publications. Wealth wasn't in doing the work, it was in owning the system that created value. This is owner thinking, not employee thinking. Math that changes everything. Linear versus exponential. Employee thinking is linear. You trade hours for money. There's a ceiling. Owner thinking is exponential. You build something once and it multiplies. You acquire skills or assets that generate returns while you sleep. Employee optimizes for the next raise. Owner builds something that grows in value over decades. Employees celebrate a 5% raise. Owners compound capital at 15% per year. Fatal mistake, waiting for money to think like an owner. Most people wait until they have money to think like an owner. That's backwards. Think like an owner first, the money follows. Study businesses before you can buy them. Develop mental models first. Be a learning machine. Observe people advancing who aren't the smartest or hardest working. They're learning machines. Each day they try to be a little wiser than yesterday. That's owner thinking. That's how true wealth is built. Opportunity cost. Time never returns. Every year you spend thinking like an employee is a year of compounding you'll never get back. Time is your scarcest resource. You can earn more money, but not more time. Start thinking like an owner at 30, about 35 years of compounding. Start at 50, about 15 years. The difference is exponential. Inversion test. What guarantees dependence forever? Never own anything. Never develop skills beyond your job description. Never study how wealth is built. Follow the herd. Seek social approval. To avoid stupidity, do the opposite. Acquire even small ownership. Develop business skills. Study companies, economics, psychology, and mathematics. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to think like an owner. In fact, a job is often the best place to develop ownership thinking, stable income, low-risk learning, study sectors from the inside. Example, when Buffett and I looked at See's candies, we didn't buy because it was exciting. We bought because the math made sense. It had pricing power, brand loyalty, and cash we could redeploy. Employee sees candy, owner sees cash machine. The business is the same. The mental model is completely different. This difference can be worth millions over a lifetime. Loss aversion. Why security keeps you poor. People fear losing what they have more than they desire something better. They cling to job security, even when it keeps them poor. Rational risk analysis. What's riskier? Building multiple income streams and owning assets, or relying on a single employer who could fire you tomorrow? Employees think jobs are safe. Owners know depending on a single income source is the biggest risk. Practical steps. 4 steps to owner thinking. Study businesses like an owner. Read annual reports. Understand unit economics. Allocate capital with owner discipline. Every dollar you invest can multiply over decades. Develop business creating skills, not task skills. Task skills keep you employed. Business skills make you valuable anywhere. Study multidisciplinary mental models, psychology, economics, math, biology. Be consistently non-stupid. You don't need to be brilliant, just consistently avoid big mistakes. Don't trade time for money forever. Don't follow the herd blindly. Don't confuse activity with progress. Real money comes from patience, not frequent buying and selling. Employee thinking is impatient. Owner thinking is patient. Berkshire Hathaway, 50 years of good principles. Warren and I didn't build Berkshire because we were the smartest. We applied good principles consistently for 50 years, avoided stupidity, respected our circle of competence, let compounding work. 30-year perspective test. Look 20 to 30 years ahead. Who's financially independent? Who's still struggling? The trajectory tells you everything. Transformation starts in the mind. Change your thinking while still earning a salary. Study businesses, build skills, allocate capital. Start thinking as an owner, even while employed. External changes follow internal shifts. Concrete example. Same income, different results. Two people earn the same salary. One thinks like an employee, spends the money, waits for raises, retires dependent on pensions. The other thinks like an owner, saves aggressively, buys assets, builds skills. Same income, same starting point.